Welcome to Words Out Loud, a series of audio profiles of audio people. Every month, I'll be chatting to someone from my world of recorded words, colleagues, clients and friends, and I'll share that with you via my newsletter or social media accounts. You can find those links, catch up with past profiles, as well as listen to the latest episode of Lowlight at crawleyvoicestudio.com. Thanks so much for listening. Jerry, how did we meet?
How did we meet?
I think it was a group of not artists. I'm talking about piss artists, probably. Anyway.
We were that first time we met, actually.
First time, that's quite true. Actors who wanted to get together in a little group to support each other with self-tape auditions. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, through a mutual friend, and nowadays, because all of us have to do these dreaded self-tapes because nobody goes to auditions anymore.
Yep.
So we have to film ourselves. So one of our friends set up a little self-help group, didn't we, called... What did we call it?
Well, eventually, it was renamed CAST.
CAST.
Which I can't remember what it stands for.
Something about self-tapes.
I don't want to start guessing in case it all goes horribly wrong.
Anyway, so we all met at somebody's house, didn't we? And had a cheese and wine party.
Yeah, cheese and wine party.
And discussed technical things.
Technical things, yeah.
About cameras and what have you. It's great, really.
We did.
Helped us a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all improved in our various areas that we needed the improvement in.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, we all realised that then you and your wonderful wife, Josie, run a fantastic choir. Well, it's Josie's choir, isn't it, obviously? But now we all go to it, so...
Yes.
So we sing together every week as well, which is
lovely.
We do. So which brings me neatly on to asking you to introduce yourself. Tell me where you're from and what you do and the different kinds of work that you get up to, please.
Right. I'm Gerard Fletcher. That's my Sunday name. My mum called me Gerard, so there you go. Everybody calls me Jerry.
We do.
And I was born and bred in Sheffield. Went to London for a bit to train as an actor at Lambda, and then came back to Sheffield a long time ago. 1995. I left drama school in 97, so I came back here about 98.
Oh, that is a long time ago, isn't it?
It is, and I've been an actor ever since.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Touching wood.
Well, I know that you weren't always an actor.
No.
So tell me about that. What happened before then? What were you doing before that?
You can get my life story now, Mel.
Well,
it
just
could
a
take forever,
version.
this.
I mean, we haven't got that long, Jack.
Yeah, okay. So, left school at 16 and went to work to be an apprentice with BT, which was then the Post Office, telecommunications.
Yeah.
I mean, we are going back to 1976. I was a mere boy.
Well, yeah, I was 6 then. I was a mere girl. 6.
I was 16 that year, so it might have been 1977 thinking about it, yeah. So I did a 3-year apprenticeship with BT, rose through the ranks, as they say. And then, if you remember, I don't know whether you remember, in 1992, BT asked people to volunteer to be made redundant.
Yeah.
And I'd been there 16 years by this time, and I'd been in local bands around Sheffield for years from being 16, because there was a massive music scene in Sheffield at the time, through the sort of late 70s, 80s, so I was sort of part of that scene in various bands and trying to make it and make a record deal and all that. But it never happened. But I met Josie, and she just got a record deal. So I started writing some stuff with her and another friend. But at the same time, I was doing some amateur operatics that I'd been doing for a few years with a mate from work, and I'd sort of been in the chorus. It was Sheffield Teachers Operatic Society, and I ended up getting the lead in a musical in 1992 called Billy, based on Billy Liar.
Oh wow!
But it was a musical,
sounds amazing. Yeah,
written by Willis Hall.
Yeah,
lovely man. I'll tell you about him in a bit.
Okay.
And it was at the Lyceum in Sheffield, so I was sort of bitten by this acting bug at the same time as writing music.
Yeah,
I left work. Bought some studio gear because I wanted to write music with Josie and this mate of ours. And he saw me in Billy Liar and suggested I don't know whether this was flattering me or what, but he suggested I was a better actor than I was a musician. So it was by pure chance that I met Wendy Spon, who was at that time the casting director at The Crucible. So my mate was saying, yeah, you ought to be an actor. You've got a better chance than being a musician. And I was made redundant this time, and I'd left BT with like thousands of quid in my back pocket, burning a big hole. So I met Wendy Spon at the Crucible Theatre's Christmas dinner dance. We were playing in the band.
That is a good time to meet a casting director, isn't it? Especially if
So,
you're on stage as well. Blimey.
Yeah. So I said, I don't go on about being an actor. I've never done any drama at school and never done any drama apart from this musical theatre that I was doing with Sheffield teachers. She just said, apply to these drama schools, see how you go on. And it was like RADA, Lambda, Central. And I went, oh, right. So I learnt an audition piece that me now good friend and the director of Sheffield teachers, Graham Anthony, he put me through my paces sort of thing. And we did this, I did Macbeth. Oh, no, it was Iago. I did a scene from Othello and a modern piece from Bounces, which is John Godber.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I did them at drama school. And I did the rounds around, Lambda, RADA, all the rest of them. And I got in at Lambda and one in Manchester. And I could only afford 1 year because by this time I'd burnt all my money.
Oh, really?
For all my redundancy money, but I could afford 1 year. But Lambda said, I decided to go to Lambda in London because it's better reputation kind of thing. It's been there hundreds of years. So they said, you need to come for 3 years. You don't know what you're doing. So they said, we'll put you up for a bursary. So I got a Cameron Macintosh bursary and he paid for the lot. So I was the richest student going at Lambda, so I'd still got a bit of redundancy money left. So, and then the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. So, well, I mean, you've obviously had quite a, do I want to say a checkered past? I don't mean anything bad by
What do you mean?
Obviously, well, But that's interesting. So, actor, musician, and now, though, really, you're most well-known, aren't you, for being Mr. Voiceover? And you love it. Do you love it?
Absolutely, it's been the best. It's just been my saviour, really. It's now, it's my bread and butter. It's what I do every day. I do voice every day. So I'm very lucky because I can do it from home now, and I've got my own studio set up, and people just drop me a script. I do TV ads from here, radio ads, corporate stuff, documentaries.
But you are very often heard in stores across the land, aren't you?
The other beautiful thing about being a voiceover artist is nobody knows what you look like or who you are. So you can walk around Morrison's and my voice comes over the tannoy and I can just go chuckle, chuckle, chuckle.
Of course you can, yeah. Yeah. So, but your day, I suppose your day is you're in your booth, aren't you? I mean, I'm in my booth at the moment as well.
Yes.
We have our little booths, don't we? So we spend a lot of time on our own. But quite often you have someone else on the line, like we're doing now, and you'll be directed, won't you? So, I mean, you must have worked with so many different people and for so many different things doing that. And it's quite technical, or it was when you started. It's probably less so now.
I was lucky because I did have that technical background because I ended up being a broadcast engineer for BT. So I used to do broadcast circuits, which at the time, this is before satellites and the like, and recording locally. Everything had to go via post office communications or BT.
Steam powered.
So if you did a TV broadcast or a radio broadcast, you had to have a landline, and I used to do the landline. So I had all the technical knowledge really about stuff. So it's helped me no end really. Yeah. So which is another thing about acting. You've got to have a sense, I think, I don't know what you feel, and especially voice, of what you're actually technically doing, because you have to play in effect and use the mic or the camera or whatever as a tool, if you like.
You do, absolutely. And I think it's interesting, isn't it, the different ways probably you can use a mic as well. If you're a musician on stage, it's a different thing, isn't it, to being in a
that's
booth,
it, yeah.
And there's an intimacy.
There is, Mel. There's a certain intimacy.
There is exactly that, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I thought perhaps also, though, that you're kind of given your many years of experience, you must have had some, how can I put this, disasters? Things that have gone spectacularly wrong?
Oh, yeah, I had one recently, actually.
You see, I knew you would.
I can't name names, you understand.
No, of course not.
I was doing a double header, as you know, meaning I'm working with somebody else, another actor on the same script. It was for a car ad. Both of us are regular voices for this particular car manufacturer. I do the sort of body text, the character text, and he does what you call the tags at the end.
Yeah.
Like, sold now in a garage near, Halifax, in Sheffield, in wherever. So, and he's got a particular voice, this bloke. He's renowned for it. He's a massive voiceover. He does continuity for Channel 4 and ITV and all that. So as with these double headers, sometimes you never meet online either. He does his bit separately to me. His session was before me. I didn't know this. The producer had got me going at 10 o'clock and he was going at 9 o'clock. So the producer sent me the link. And of course, I joined the session and thought he was mixing what he'd just recorded with this other voiceover artist. So I started taking the mick out of this voiceover artist. And he's going, "Who's that? What's that all about?" And I didn't realise he was still recording. And he's like this big name voice, and I'm taking the mic. And I sort of like talking the way he talks. And he talks like that at the end of every sentence. So I was doing all that going, and I suddenly realised after he started talking back.
Oh,
so I discreetly dropped out of the circuit.
Did you? You didn't like own up and say, sorry. I
was so embarrassed. It was one of those moments.
Oh no! Do you think he'll ever work with you again?
He's all right. I know him very well, so he's. I haven't apologised to him, but I was apologising to the producer.
There's an opportunity now. I mean, if you want to take it,
No.
Heartfelt. No, all right. We'll just forget about that. He'll never hear this.
He'll never hear it. Well, but he might do. Sorry, John. I've had the one where I was doing an advert for Bennett's bike insurance, Bennett's, and I spent an hour. The engineer, and you've got you've been to these sessions where you're sitting in this amazing studio in Soho, and there's a glass wall, and the client and all the big wigs are all behind the glass, and you're on mic, and you've got to perform. And the engineer went, "So if you could just go across the mic in 2-inch intervals and say the word Bennett's." Right. So I had to go, Bennett's, 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 Bennett's. That took about half an hour.
Okay.
It was the most weird job I've ever done. And then I've also been to London where you go in these studios, and I did one take, and the client went, "Well, that sounds great to me. Yeah, that'll be all right." I went, "What? One take?" So, yeah,
that's what you long for, I think, really, isn't it?
I said, "No, let me give you another one just because I'm here."
Just because I've bothered to come all the way down from
So
Sheffield.
I did. I gave them 2, but they liked the first one best.
Fair enough.
So it swings and roundabouts, really.
Yeah, swings and roundabouts. With all these different things that you've done in your life, what work have you done that you're the most proud of?
I don't like blowing my trumpet, so I don't know if I should tell you about it. I gave this lad who had cerebral palsy, never had a voice, and he was 18, and he'd got one of these, that's the kind of voice that you get on these machines.
Yeah, like a stock kind of, AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah. But he's from Barnsley, so he wanted a Yorkshire accent. So I was asked if I would provide the voice for his machine. And just to see his face when he could order 2 pints of lager down the pub with his machine. Because it runs on his eyes. He's in this wheelchair, and the machine reads eye movement, and he basically types what he wants to say with his eyes. Yeah. And he has, as I say, he has no voice. He's never had a voice. Yeah. Like he can't speak. So, and then my voice comes out asking for 2 pints down the pub. So just to see his face when he was putting all sorts of words in this machine to see what results he got back was probably the best.
Yeah,
moment,
I bet
really.
that's job satisfaction for you, isn't it? I mean, what a wonderful thing to do. And I mean, that's one of the good applications of kind of artificial intelligence and kind of how use of kind of technology, isn't it, for that?
Yeah.
And I bet, did you have to record something like about 10,000 sentences or something like that? Was it?
I was doing it off and on. It took me 6 months basically to record hours and hours of completely disjointed sentences that didn't mean anything to me.
So, I mean, that's interesting that you picked that one as being your kind of thing that you're most proud of. Is there something that you get out of doing voice or acting or even music or whatever it is that you do that's the particular thing that really makes you go, yeah, I'm really glad about that? Something that's like that magic or special thing. And can you identify it, or is it impossible to identify? I don't know.
I think And I've just sort of tried to, you can see this in all the genres that we work in. It's that feeling of knowing that the audience, that you can put something across to the audience and they understand what you're thinking, what you're getting at, and can empathise with what you're saying. Whether it be on stage where you know the saying goes, you've got them in the palm of your hand. When you know you've made that connection into the audience where the feedback, whether it's silence, clapping, just the timing of doing something in a comedy role where you get the timing just right, or you get that reaction that you go, yeah, they've got it. They know what I'm thinking here. That's the moment that you go, I don't know what it makes you feel inside. But you can do that with, I find, TV is one of the hardest mediums I've found to work in. And I'm still learning because they just can't teach you that thing, I don't think. Yeah. Trying to get it across on camera is one of the hardest things.
Because there's a disconnect, isn't it? What you described there is a really human thing, isn't it? And I suppose the easiest, not easiest, but the most direct way of kind of being able to get that going is with an audience in the room with you.
Yeah.
But even as a voice artist, because of the intimacy of it, I think you can imagine that you're kind of speaking into someone's ear.
Exactly.
Can't you?
Exactly.
And that's quite direct. But I totally understand what you mean about that not kind of being so easy when you're trying to do it for TV, because everything's done in out of order, and you know, and it's an artificial setup, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah.
But you know that you're going out and there's this screen and you're going out to these millions of people potentially.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit of a mind messer, you know.
One of the biggest lessons learned was when I worked with Sally Wainwright on Happy Valley, and in the scene, I didn't have much to do apart from there were lots of stage directions that I was a solicitor representing one of the characters in the piece, and in the script it said, like, you know, I was very fed up with my client because he started spilling the beans. I was going, shut up. I'm trying to tell him to shut up, but with gestures. So she came up to me and stopped the scene and went, "You're doing far too much. I just want to see your reaction in, like, I don't know, the raise of an eyebrow, a slight wink. I just want you to do that. Maybe you'll take your glasses off. I don't know." So I was going, oh, no, I'm doing too much. Bring it down and down and down and down. So it ended up with me taking my glasses off and then forgetting where, because then you have to do this continuity on every line. Yeah. Where did I take my glasses off? How did I put my glasses back on again? Oh, God, it was amazing, that. But I've learned, I've just done a big job and learned so much on that job and put some of the stuff into practice. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like.
That's it, isn't it? You learn stuff and then you need to have the regularity of work to be able to try and put what you've learned into practice and keep growing, don't you? Yeah.
And get feedback. And it's very hard at my level to get feedback from... The only feedback I've learned that you get is if you don't get a note, you're doing all right. Basically.
Yeah.
And if they come back to give you more work, that's the only... I've worked with Sally Wainwright 3 times now, so I hope I'm doing something right that she keeps asking me back, but she hasn't asked me back since then, actually, thinking about it.
I'm going to move you on because we're kind of getting through our time slot here, and I want to know something that I don't know the answer to. Have you ever written for yourself? Or written your own projects at all? I think do you write your own songs?
I'm rubbish at words.
You don't do it? Okay.
I do music. I write music.
Yes.
I write jingles for adverts. I've done an album's worth, and I've got another 10 tracks that I've had published on a couple of libraries, because when you do an advert, or they're used in documentaries and stuff like that, so I do. I'm a guitarist basically. But I do sing, and I do, as you know, and I do play lots of instruments just because I like messing about. So I recorded some interesting tracks. If you check out my SoundCloud,
I will check out your SoundCloud account. So you do these on your own in your studio, don't you? Because I know you've got loads of guitars and mandolins and all sorts of things in there.
Yeah.
But you were in bands as well, weren't you? And obviously you act on stage with other people, and then you do your VO stuff on your own. What do you prefer, or is it just too different to make a choice?
I love it all. I've been so fortunate to have been able to work in so many areas of this business. Every one of them has got its own positives and negatives. I do like voice because I feel as if every script is a little play or a little, it's something to get your teeth into, characters and stuff like that. So voice is challenging in so many different ways. Even, the smallest car ad, you've still got to get some kind of character across. So I treat them all as little as an acting job. But stage is one thing, TV is another thing. Music is, I've always done music all my life, so it's just ingrained in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know you are a sociable person. Would you describe yourself as sociable? Oh, maybe you would. Okay, I've made an assumption here.
Well, I like being with other people, but I don't like blowing my own trumpet very much, and I like to just have a laugh, basically. It's with friends. So
no. I mean, the reason I asked that really is because, you're very forthcoming, it seems to me, with help and support for other people. I mean, you've helped me probably the most out of anybody in terms of voice. You've helped me in all sorts of different ways, lots of advice, and you never begrudge it. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, really, and have you as my first guest ever.
Oh, thanks.
So, I mean, I guess, what am I asking here? I suppose, first of all, to ask you if there's anybody that really helped you and impacted on your career particularly, but also just how do you approach that kind of like networking thing, that horrible thing that we hate to do, but kind of generally in the industry, what's your approach to that? How do you connect with people? What do you think works well?
I've been scared of I don't like networking. I never have done in the past. I mean, I'm lucky now. I've been doing it for so long that it doesn't faze me anymore because, one, I've got a big body of work, I suppose, so I can sort of talk about things. But when in the first instances, I went to a particular voiceover conference on my own because I forced myself to go, and it was in an hotel, and it was a big dinner dance. I mean, I know you've been to these things.
I've much more recently, but yeah.
Yeah, and I was basically put on a table with the finance department of a radio. So I was on with nobody who could give me any work. And they're very nice people, and I just found myself on my own on this table going. And I ended up going around. It was one of these where there was bottles of wine on the table, and then at the end, when there's absolutely nobody talking to you, and you just can't be. You've tried your best to get up and speak to people, and then they move on because they don't know who you are and they don't really care. I just ended up nicking wine off people's tables. So I grabbed a bottle of wine, I went, I'm off, went back to my room, and then I thought, no, I've paid all this money for this, I've got to do some networking. So I forced myself back down to the bar, and I just started chatting at the bar with somebody, and then he introduced me to somebody else, and by the end of it, I'd got loads of contacts, and the next day, I'd got my demo and showed me demo, and everybody was hungover and tapping everybody on the back, and I made quite a few friends that day, especially who is no longer there, the producer who was at local radio Hallam here, and within a week he'd given me 4 jobs, so it obviously worked. A friend of mine is a music lecturer at Liverpool University, and he is basically Dr. Beatles, because everybody who does anything academic towards the Beatles comes to him. Yeah. So this bloke rings him up and says, my dad played Dilruba, whatever the word is for the instrument, on Sgt. Pepper's. Dilruba, which is like a violin-y kind of instrument with a big... It's an interesting instrument. He played on Sgt. Pepper, but he never got a credit. So Mike went, this sounds like a load of rubbish. He says, and he's getting on a bit now, and he'd like some recognition. Yeah. So Mike did some research and found out that there were 6 musicians that played on Sgt. Pepper that have never been accredited on the album. Mm. He found out who they were. There were 2 left alive, the tabla player and the Dilruba player. Yeah. So he put a concert on called Within You, Without You at the London Philharmonic in Liverpool to celebrate 50 years of Sgt. Pepper. And he asked me to do, he'd done a big film, and there was going to be an orchestra, an classical Indian 6-piece ensemble, and a band from Liverpool were playing, because they were going to do Within You, Without You by George Harrison. We were talking about the space, that one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he put this concert together, and he did a big film with film clips that nobody had ever seen, that this Indian guy's family had kept from those times.
Oh, yeah.
He'd got permission from George Harrison's wife and Yoko Ono to use this stuff and put it on a big show. So he did this film, and he asked me to narrate it. So I narrated it. as a voiceover.
Yeah.
But then we went to the dress rehearsal. He knows nothing about putting an event on, my mate, because he's an academic.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll go with you and talk to the technical staff, and we'll see how we can get the orchestra on, get the band on and all that. So as we were doing this, and I'm reading out some of the stuff, the guy at the Liverpool Philharmonic says, well, why don't you go on stage and read it and be part of the thing? And you can introduce it all and be like the MC. And it was that night. I says, well, I can. Yeah, all right then. So I did, and it was the best thing. It's brilliant. And I met the Tabla and Dalruba player, and he was such a naughty man. This old Indian guy must have been in his 80s, and he kept coming up to me and singing songs to me in my ear as we were on stage, messing about. And it was all about him, supposedly, but he's just messing about with me. It was very funny.
That sounds amazing.
It was great.
Once-in-a-lifetime gig type thing. But anyway, we are nearly out of time. So I have one last question for you. And I don't know whether you can answer this or not. Are you in something or about to start something that people listening to this can have a look out for?
I'm in a thing called Sherwood on BBC One coming out soon.
Excellent.
That's been advertised at the moment. Set in 1980. My bit is set in 1984. It's a police drama with David Morrissey and Joanne Froggatt and a woman I can never remember her name. But anyway, she's brilliant.
That sounds great. Okay.
I'm in 2 episodes of that. It's coming out very soon, called Sherwood.
Right, I'll look out for it.
Police drama with flashbacks to 1984, and I'm in the 1984 bit.
Excellent. And I take it that you are dressed appropriately.
I am. And I've also just finished filming The Crown.
Oh, The Crown. That's a big show, isn't it?
I've had the best time filming The Crown. It's really good. So I did 5 days on it. I think I'm either only 1 or 2 episodes, but that's such is filming. So it's been, that was really good filming that. And everybody wants to talk about The Crown. But
so are you a royal or are you?
Can't say.
You can't say. It's
no.
all under wraps. So
it's all under wraps.
You could be
sworn to
a
secrecy.
Peasant being trodden underfoot by the royals, or you could be a royal.
Well, put it this way: there aren't many royals coming from where I come from, so.
Right, we'll say no more. We'll say no more. Gerard.
I think you can get from that I don't think I'm playing a royal.
Oh, but you could have, obviously.
I suppose, yes. But I didn't know. No.
I'm imagining you, like, really, really clenching your buttocks as you do.
But I am.
Are you? It's very good. Right, well, look out for that, definitely. And, we've got to go, I'm afraid. We've run out of time. So.
And another thing, I'm in a musical in Chesterfield in May.
Are you?
Yes.
Which musical?
It's called The Crooked Spire.
Oh, is it? Well, that's appropriate, isn't it? And what are you playing? Who are you playing? I'm
playing Lord or Sir Henry somebody or other.
So is this based
shows you how much research I've done.
So is this actually based on the history of the
yes.
construction? Because it's very interesting, isn't it? There's all different versions of the reason for it being crooked. I don't know.
Crooked by name, crooked by nature. That's the theory is that I'm building it. It's me who's building it.
Oh, are you?
I've got a bit of a dodgy deal going with some timber. Put it that way.
That's right. There was something about the lack of materials.
Yes, because they'd just done. They had a war or something.
Yes, they had a war.
It was the 12th century. It's probably a crusade or something.
Materials, and so the materials were inferior.
Yes, so they basically used wet wood rather than dried out wood. Is one theory.
Well, that's exciting. So that's a newly written musical.
It is. It's a newly written.
That's amazing. And what's the run for that? How long you'll be doing it?
It's only a week.
Definitely
I think.
Come in though. Don't worry. Try and keep me away.
Yeah, it's a murder mystery. It's in May.
Okay, well, we've got to go, I'm afraid. But if anybody wants to contact you, Jerry, what's your address, please? Web address?
Well, it's www. We don't have to say that anymore. GerardFletcher.co.uk.
GerardFletcher.co.uk. This is
lovely to speak to you, Mel.
It's lovely to speak to you as well. I've enjoyed it very much.
Good luck with the editing.
Thanks. I know. I'm never going to get this down to 15 minutes, am I? I might have to rethink my strategy, as ever. Okay, right, see ya. That's it for this month. Thanks for joining me. And thank you to my guest this week, Gerard Fletcher, who actually wrote and produced this theme tune. You've been listening to Words Out Loud, a series of audio profiles of audio people. Words Out Loud is hosted and produced by Melanie Crawley for Crawley Voice Studio. Find out more at crawleyvoicestudio.com.